Hello, and welcome to the Innovative Conversation. I'm Steve Waltz.
And I'm Jeff Progulski.
And Jeff, it's been a while.
It has. Welcome to 2023, huh? It's only the end of February. Thought we should probably have a podcast. But the reason I think actually that we waited this long is because we were waiting for this humongous event to occur. And that was bringing on a new team member. So who do we have with us today, Steve?
Well, we're excited that we have Andrea Hall on our podcast today. Welcome, Andrea.
Hello, guys.
Welcome.
What's great is at one time she was a client of ours, and then went on to something else, and decided to join our team. So, Andrea, maybe you could tell us our listeners a little bit about yourself and your journey to Innovia.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'm happy to be here. So, I will give you the highlights, and then we can delve into anything that might be interesting. So a little bit about myself. I live in Southern Maine. I'm a New England girl. Absolutely love it with my family. And we like to be outside and enjoy all four seasons and be here. And I've lived here my whole life. Most notably, my career life for 24 years, I spent at Stonewall Kitchen, manufacturer of gourmet specialty foods right here in Maine. And what an incredibly wonderful, wild ride. So I started at Stonewall Kitchen when I was very young, and I really just wanted to work at a great company that had a great reputation, and they weren't even hiring. And I sort of banged on their door, and they let me join a board. And we had about 45 employees at the time. In fact, I even started in sales. And over the next 24 years, we grew in leaps and bounds. I quickly realized I had a real aptitude for business systems, loved how they could be leveraged to make sort of daily life and better and strategic goals happen. So I jumped the fence over to IT and ended up leading that department. And we did so many incredible things there. And in fact, all the way to the last 3 years of being there, we acquired 6 smaller companies. And I was able to be on the forefront of understanding what they were using for systems and how maybe we had ideas that they could do things differently or better. So that was really fun. And then, so after 2.5 decades of solving jam problems, I thought that I would go out in the world and see what else I could do. I love the NAV BC space. So I've stayed close to this community and really found the opportunity at Innovia. We'll probably talk about this, but 7 years ago, Stonewall Kitchen decided to make Innovia our partner. And I got to see firsthand how great Innovia is and how they do things differently. And it's really, really positive and effective. And I wanted to be a part of it. So I know what I demanded from my partner, and now I get to help make sure that happens for people.
Wow, 7 years. Wow. Time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And, Jeff, we were at the NAVOG event, and we were just talking about a little bit ago. Andrea was sitting at her table, and she just looked me dead in the eye. Steve, why Innovia? Why should I come to Innovia? I'm like, well, that's a great question. And so, it was a couple-year process.
It was rigorous. We had some tough experiences, and by gosh, we really wanted a partner, someone who was truly engaged, who wanted to sit at the table and help us figure out how to do things differently and better. And I know we put you through the paces, and it all worked out. It was well worth it.
The nice thing about it is when somebody else asks me that, I can say, well, we have Andrea Hall. Right? It's one of the reasons why. And I think, Andrea, kind of speaks to, there's some fear when folks are, they don't know what they don't know. They might think this is my relationship. This is how it's supposed to be, right? And then and through the channel, I know you're heavily involved in the user groups and kind of meeting more people. It does make you think, well, maybe there's a different way, right?
Mm-hmm. I know. I would go to the user group, one of my favorite events of the year, meet all of these great people who are using the same systems, trying to solve some of the same problems, talk to each other. I remember going, who has the best partner? I want them. Where is the best partner? And then I had so many people ask me, who is the best partner? Who do you have? Everyone is searching and looking. And I think two things are true. It depends on what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Some organizations need more support. Some organizations need more vision. Some do it themselves and they just need someone to be there just in case, So I think fit is really, really important. And at the same time, I also think that, again, it drew me to Inovia. Inovia's approach is unique in the marketplace in that there's non-billable resources who sincerely care and want to understand what you're doing and share suggestions and share ideas. And sometimes work will come from that and sometimes it won't, but there's a real investment in wanting to help put ideas on the table and help deliver value. And that's really unique. In my whole lifetime career in any type of system, I never had a partner who didn't bill for every single minute of conversation. And it was just infuriating. And that's sort of the gateway to really having trust in a relationship where you can get past that and really achieve good things.
Nice. And you said the magic word investment. I know I was early when I was here at Inovia, Tom was talking about the investment and he said, Steve, it's only investment when both parties invest, not just one. And it's true. And so question I have, then I'll let Jeff, as you'll find out, I kind of take over the podcast, but what do you think, what would be your superpower? What do you think your superpower is that you look to share with your clients?
Ooh, that's great. Well, I think I will inspired by, I'm not a technologist by trade, but I'm enthralled by what technology can do. And I worked at Stonewall Kitchen, that was a homegrown American dream entrepreneurial company that grew leaps and bounds. There's sometimes power in not knowing things and seeking to find them. So a lot of times I was enabled to ask what some people might think is like, oh, the silly question, or to imagine things that people would say, it doesn't really work that way. I'm not going to be held back by those sort of guidelines. Like, I don't know better. I'm going to say, is this possible? What if we do it this way? I don't understand what the box is, so I don't need to be throttled by that. And I think it's fun to have conversations with people who are very box oriented and sort of help them think outside of the box for options, not just the way it's always been. And then it's really fun to think about people who similarly are like, I don't even know what the rules are. Let's just figure out what's best based on what we know now, who we can talk to, what we can learn. And I think you really kind of surpass limitations when you think that way and approach things that way.
Well, that's great to hear because, most companies want to stick the client in their box versus building the box around the client, right? And I think having that mindset of what is possible versus what is status quo is great. So, all right, Jeff, I know I've been hogging the questions here and you're raring to go. He's got a list of, I think he said 72 questions. Andrea, are you ready?
Perfect.
The first one, no, I actually rarely have any questions that until it's, and I should say rarely have any useful questions, but somehow I'm still Steve keeps me around. So yeah, I'm excited. I guess I would ask, you've been at Inovia for 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
So, you're still drinking from the fire hose in terms of all of the Inovia process. And so have you been out to see any clients yet? Have you been traveling and meeting people? And what's the, what's the last 3 weeks been like for you?
Yeah, great question. I actually have had a lot of variety in just a short period of time. So my real introduction was being able to join the entire sales team on site for the quarterly sales meeting. And it was such a great sort of slice and microcosm of the larger organization to sort of enter into. And I think both in person and virtually since then, what is almost in a wonderful way overwhelming, everyone's willingness to help. everyone, every single person in every single department, every single conversation is like, how can I help? I'm always here to help. Reach out to me when you come up with the question you think I can help with. And I knew that was a feature when I was on the client side. We would have our meetings with Inovia and they're like, how can we help? And now that I'm inside the organization, by gosh, it's a group of really helpful people who really want to share the knowledge they have with other people to their benefit, to help pass it along. And that's always been something in my career, which honestly is why I wanted a position like this, to be a customer engagement specialist, because I haven't done everything in the world, but I've done some things in the world. And if I can share my stories and help someone avoid a little divot, all the better. So my introduction was the sales meeting. I have been able to sort of ride along with my colleagues and visit clients. And it's so wonderful because some of them, they're like old friends, hugs and highs and getting caught up on relational things and then talking about how the business is going. It's awesome that people, clients trust the people at the table to say, this is not going well, and sometimes that's not easy to admit or talk about. And they really want to openly share it so that, people from Inovia can help them make it better. That's been great. And then lots of phone calls, lots of learning, all really positive stuff. And it makes sense. I'm a process person and I love to see how Inovia's outlined their processes to help each of us be able to do what we do and help our clients.
Wait, we have processes? Maybe that's why I was kicked out of the sales team. So much of a rebel.
She must not have had any licensing issues or demos yet.
That's true.
Coming soon.
Coming soon too.
Yeah. And I will say, it's to me, it's a sign that Inovia walks the walk. I know it was recommended to me before I was on the inside, and I've already heard it recommended to others, is you've got to really get a handle on your processes, and then you can automate, systematize, whatever the case may be. And to come inside, have the veil lifted and come inside Inovia and see, in fact, that is exactly what's happening here is really impressive. There's a lot of people sell it, but they don't really live it.
Right. Speaking of sales, how do you feel about CRM? Steve, I did that for Steve.
I told you
because it's been like 15 minutes and we haven't said it yet now. So I'm just kidding. So I will get back to the topic at hand, which is you, Andrea. So when Steve asked, what your superpower was, I was hoping you would answer your hairdo, but that does actually strikes me as a superhero hairdo. And I'm sort of like jealous. Like if I had a little more volume, I would we're just like mocking Steve right now by our.
Well, Jeff, we can talk hair product. You two could have this. We'll talk.
Amazing.
It took me about 30 years to grow hair, more than I have now. Maybe.
Amazing. So I would say that I'm really excited to have you as a team member, and when I heard rumblings that you might be joining us, I thought there is no way that we can afford, because the way that we come to our team is the sales team is really, like when you look around that sales meeting at our quarterly meeting, there is just first of all, most of us are old, but but there's a lot of experience there, and just the way that Inovia goes to market, it's just like when I tell people that I'm in pre-sales and I'm part of a sales team, I don't know what it's like because I only had experience with a small family business before I joined Inovia almost 15 years ago, but from my interactions with other partners and other people in the NAV BC space, I just, I think it's really unique the way we go to market, a lot of the things that you mentioned. And it's just like, when I look around our team, like everyone is a rock star in some way. We don't all have the hairdos that show it, but if we do, hey, like better for us. So I'm glad that you are That wasn't a slight towards you, Steve. I was just, saying like, let's celebrate the positives. So yeah, super excited to have you on the team. And I think really, we've had a couple great, adds to the Innovia team, not just on sales, but when I think about like picking up customers that come to the dark side and join the partner and just bring that experience of, knowing what you needed out of a partner and being able to directly, put that information to use for for the clients that you are going to be working with.
I think it's very different, and that Innovia really works to put people who have a career's worth of experience in the role that I get to be in, and others, as you mentioned. Oftentimes sort of an account manager is a junior, my first job out of school, and you're really kind of great at communication and shuffling emails and keeping people connected. But Innovia strives to have career, lifetime, seriously sort of experienced people who have sort of been there, done that, who, I've already had a conversation where I had a suggestion based on my experience. It wasn't even related to systems, but it's the kind of conversation we can have because of the kind of people that Innovia is really seeking out and drawing into the team. I agree. I think that's a real differentiator.
All right, Steve. I'm done. I'm out of.
You got 70 more, Jeff. Come on.
70 more. All right. Wait, did you count? The hair was more of a comment than a question, I guess.
Okay, 71. But Andrea, where Jeff was going in the conversation is, I came from the healthcare pharma and been here almost 8 years now. Which is crazy to think that, but just, you find out that ERP is hard, and there's a lot of functionality of the software. And we have clients that have been long-term clients with us. We get some that come over, and it's what's interesting is that we try to meet folks where they're at, and by having folks like yourself that have that user mindset. Right, because you worked with the system as a user. I mean, you saw some of the amazing things, the enhancements, right? The automating some things and seeing, my gosh, we just saved this person 4 hours a week, right?
Yeah.
By automating this, or I'm sure you have stories to share. And the neat thing about that is I really, when Tom was explaining to me kind of how we engage in the process and what we're trying to do as a company, I kept saying to him, I'm like, so how can you hire these folks and they not bill and be profitable, right? And, it's interesting because it's that long game mentality, that investment in the relationship. So the thing that I had to struggle with the most that you probably might not have as much because you've been in the channel was all the add-ons, all the ISVs, right? Then I remember I think the first presentation I was at my first sales meeting, they started talking about licensing. I had no idea about the licensing, and where we have to take somebody like Jeff, who probably Jeff, did you miss a question on the SAT test? No, that's probably a different discussion. But to put somebody with with that knowledge, what's that?
I said not on the math one.
Not on the math one. To get heavily involved, there are so many things that moving parts to it, and to have a resource like you to kind of go in and meet with your clients that they can actually call you knowing they're not getting a bill, right? And so we're not going to give your cell phone number out. We're all customer focused. I don't know if Tom told you, they call for calls on the weekends. Just kidding. But it is a different model. So have you been in a meeting yet or experienced with a client with maybe another person's one where you just saw like, wow, they came to us with this, and where maybe you were surprised by that and we had a solution, or has anything that developed yet as of that since you've been here?
I would almost, it's been 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So let's keep that in mind.
One more week, you're a senior.
Yeah. Excellent. It's more, it's hard for me to have, I just feel ill-equipped to sort of give a tangible example in a well-formulated way. Cause me following the whole story from start to finish, start to middle to end. So it's sort of a generic answer that yes, yes, I have seen it. In small ways and big ways. So I was on a call today, as a matter of fact, and it's a small company, 20 employees, and they have BC and they use it for financials. And they showed us this, albeit impressive, extremely manual way they do their entire business process other than the financials. Mm-hmm. And they said, wow, we're just growing. We've been in business for 4 years. We've doubled. We're growing in leaps and bounds. Now is the time. This person had come from a bigger company. I know systems can do it. Here's what we do. Help us do it in a system. And my colleague and I were on the phone and we're like, it can do that. It can do that. It can do that. Like, we can't wait to show you what it can do. Now, someone in his shoes wouldn't know, right. I remember early in my career, I didn't put in ERP systems. Like, I didn't know. My job is my actual business. So it's amazing when someone like that can sit down with someone who's like, I actually know the ins and outs of the system. I've seen, 100 companies use it and how it can be leveraged. And someone basically said, I need these 7 things. And we're like, oh my gosh, we can do those 7 things, help you in the system, and you'll be scaled, ready to scale and grow. That's powerful. That's power. I mean, again, I worked at a really small company when I started, 40, 45 employees. We were tiny. We ended up at, over 500 employees by the time I left, and significant growth. But in the beginning, we didn't know what we didn't know. So to partner with someone who's sincerely, truly been around the block, that magic was happening on that phone call of what was possible. They knew they needed something, and we knew that it was possible.
Right. It kind of goes with, you don't know what you don't know. And, the internet has changed things. And when people reach out to me, it's amazing how much research they have done.
Yeah.
And sometimes you think about, you're going to buy a car, you're going to buy maybe a refrigerator or something, you can do all the research on there. And it's interesting, my brother sells appliances. And I remember we were fortunate. We bought the refrigerator right before the pandemic kicked in, right? Because ours was on its last leg. And I said, I want to buy this refrigerator. And he goes, you're paying a lot of money for something that has parts of something that's half price. It's the same one, And so if you go to this model, you're getting, a little bit higher quality, whatever. But my point is that I did my research and I thought I was an expert, but he worked with it day in and day out. Right. And so I think what you'll find when you're working with clients, and what I have found when I have people come to me, that when they do all the research, it's great that you've done the research, but do you work with this stuff on a daily basis? Right. Because that knowledge base changes. And Jeff, I haven't been on the App Store, for probably about a month. And I lost track. I remember we were one of the first apps. Like, we had an app on there when there was like 7 or 10, remember? And what was there, 7,000? Is it over? Does that sound like about right? Am I close on the number?
I think so, yes. There's every day there are new ones that get approved and added.
Right. And Andrea, and I think what's going to help is that when clients bring these to us or whatever, we work with them daily, right? Yeah. We know which ones are good marketers. And I remember somebody brought one, and they had that company had 2 employees, right? And no installs, but you can just download it right here. It's going to do all these wonderful things. So I think having like in your expertise on that, like, well, that's great. However, we might want to approach it, let me call or let me have a discussion with them. Because I think as you get more into doing this, right, you're going to learn to ask better questions. And I think what Scott Barsotti said, the key is not to ask just questions, is to ask the right questions.
Nice. Right. Well, I mean, think like chart of accounts. Sure, you can put anything you want in there, but somebody who's done it and seen it done 500 times, we'll say, but keep in mind this.
Yes.
So you can open the box and you can do it, but why wouldn't you want sort of expertise and experience to weigh in on what you're doing? It makes me think I'll humbly compare us maybe to doctors, but I advocate for doing research, and maybe we can talk about the user group and gaining knowledge and education about it. Absolutely advocate for that. At the same time, there's a point where someone who's done it before can add a different value than pure research. So you look things up on WebMD, and that is awesome. You do some research. You should find out if you should wait a week and see if it changes, or if you should go to the emergency room right now. Like you need to be informed and figure things out. But research on your own doesn't necessarily mean that you're prepared to perform surgery on yourself. That's a different level of expertise. So be informed, and then partner with someone who can kind of complement that with real life experience that you don't have. So I think that's the best of both worlds.
And it coming from a healthcare company, it's we used to say, what you call the top surgeon in the class and the bottom surgeon of the class? Surgeon.
I know this one.
Yeah.
Right. They got the degree, and but the research can help you find the top surgeon, right? And I think that's one of the benefits of it, of the internet. So what advice would you give to a customer that's currently running the system, that's maybe struggling, that really is looking that they're trying to learn more about the system, right? And they ask you, Andrea, what would you recommend? I mean,
what is this, Steve, a job interview? Come on.
Well, no, I'm just kind of curious. I think this is good for our listeners, because we got some out there probably running the system thinking, you know what, it's not doing what I want it to do. What questions should I ask? Yeah.
Well, you switched the question on me. So what question should I ask? What would I recommend? To what we were talking about is pursue learning more about it. And I did want to mention, because it was really, really powerful for my previous organization, is to get engaged with user groups. So user groups, either for free or nominal membership, you are now in a group of, we'll say, peers and partners and service providers who all are using the same system, either to solve the same problem, slightly different. They've been there, they've done that. My biggest recommendation is get yourself closer to other people in this space. And while sort of manufacturing jam is different from manufacturing trains, there are some fundamental elements about putting pieces and parts together to come up with something that's different. Get with more people who are doing, using the system and doing the things that you're doing. And the user group is an amazing way. I was just talking to people this week about the two things, the forum. So there's an online forum that this community is looking at, and you're like, God, we keep stumbling on this thing. We keep getting this, whatever, put it in the forum. And 3 people will be like, oh, we had that last year. You need to go here and uncheck that. Wow, thanks. You're sort of crowdsourcing some questions that you have of people who have been there and done that. So forum, I love, takes 2 seconds to post something, and then the universe will answer you. And then if you can get to actual in-person events where there's presentations, education sessions, networking, talking, learning about this sea of add-ons and all of that kind of stuff. Like I get really passionate about this, but when years ago, I started going to the user group for NAV, now NAV BC, I was the one person who went. That's all we could afford to send, and I went. By the time I left my organization, we had 9 people going each year. We had people, and for a part of this journey, people say it's an IT conference. I don't want to go to that. It's an IT conference. It's a business conference. Your business is run on this software, everyone. So we were taking people from IT, from sales, marketing, manufacturing, distribution, and our analysis team. we had people from all those, and they all took different sessions that were tailored to them, and they all walked away with little gems they could go back to the office and instantly put into place. We also came back usually with one big idea that we would, turn into a project or an initiative. But every year, every single person who went learned something they would put into practice as soon as they went back to the office. So my recommendation is get closer to people like you using the system that you're using.
Did you have an internal group at Stonewall when you were there?
We did for some business systems. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were very fortunate enough to have both an IT team, so the mechanics and networking and all that kind of stuff, but we also had an information systems team that really oversaw the business systems. And I worked hard. We had an incredible in-house developer as well. So we, for all intents and purposes, ran our own internal shop, fielded support tickets, implemented modules and solutions, and did training internally and all of that as well. So, but we never could have done, and that stemmed out of actually struggling to find an effective partner in the early years. Mm-hmm. So we, we're an entrepreneurial company, and by God, we'll do it ourselves then. So we did, and we learned a lot, and we learned from our peers who were doing it. And then just to come full circle, we would also take, 8 or 9 people each year to the conference, but we would have at least half of them share presentations, share the stories of where we'd been and what we did to contribute to the community, because we'd gotten so much from the community. And I think that's a wonderful exchange as well.
It's amazing how people, when I talk with folks that are interested, I'll ask them, do you have an internal ERP team? Mm-hmm. And usually crickets, right? But we kind of talk through what you just kind of said is that the more the people know the capabilities of the software, mm-hmm. right? And I always use the analogy of my iPhone. I know enough to where I can open up my apps, play my games, right? Text people, do my email, call people. But what percentage of the capabilities am I using, right? And it's funny because when I hook up with my sons or younger folks and that I trust to have my phone, they'll show me these things, or you can Google it. But I mm-hmm. do think the power in numbers of what you did. You said you started, all of a sudden you got 8 people going, mm-hmm. and then you come back with sometimes these are game changing ideas, right? I saw this ISV, or I went to this session and they did this, or I watched a webinar on some other website. It's powerful stuff. And that's the cool thing that you'll get to be able to do is point your clients in that direction, right? To kind of say, hey, you're interested in CRM. You're Steve Webinar, right, Jeff? I know you're doing one. I think you and Tom, and I think, is it Tony Darden doing one at the user group? I think I saw that on there.
We want to. It's okay. Yeah. Oh, so this is not where I should launch into my CRM spiel, because it's such a great tool that so many industries and companies need, and there's multiple ways to solve that. And I can think of 2 right off the top of my bat, and pros and cons. And
nice.
So the fun of that session is Tony and his organization went one path, and when I was at Stonewall, we went another path, and we solved the same CRM need in 2 different ways for mm-hmm. different reasons. And, it shows you back to sort of expertise and the value of it. It's not one size fits all. What do you need? Where are you going? What's the right fit for you? And then, by the way, here's some tips so that you don't bobble it while you're putting it in and getting your people up to speed on it and whatnot. So, yeah.
That's Jeff's going great. I got 2 people now that are going to that love CRM and inside it.
Let's wrap this up. I don't want to get. Well, I would say that actually that brings us to a great point. Your answers to Steve's question about how do our customers coming to you with questions, and that brings us to our upcoming customer conference, right? We are looking forward to that. That's coming up in, are we at the 60-day mark yet? 60 days out.
Almost May.
No. Yeah, we're
coming.
It's less than 3
90
months.
days. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So let's so that would be a great opportunity for for us to remind our listeners that I can just look at your background. Andrea, and so, May 21st and 22nd, and then being able to meet the Inovia team and interact with the people who are helping you on the day-to-day stuff, as well as then maybe extending your stay and staying for DynamicsCon to see all kinds of cool presentations by hopefully people like you and Tony and Tom. And I know we've got a lot of ideas in the hopper for the presentation. So I think that is a great way for us to wrap this up, Steve. Unless you want to tell us how your CRM webinar went this morning.
Well, we'll let the people that attended tell me, right? But Jeff, kind of get into what Andrea was talking about. So our customer conference is a huge investment. I mean, it's over half our marketing dollars, and I remember talking with Donovan and Alan. It's like it's a give back to our clients, right? It really does. So we're doing something new this year. Right, we're instead of having it in the Midwest, we used to have it up in the Wisconsin Dells, right? Because that's where we were based out of, and then we had it last year in South Bend, which was nice for me, right? It was a 20-minute drive to Notre Dame, but tying it in right before the Dynamic User Group conference, we had about 300 folks at our conference last year, and multiple sessions going each hour. And the feedback was just wonderful, right? Here's some great training sessions, but now you can go from ours to theirs. And, I know it can be, almost a week of an investment for some folks, but I think, it just getting that, those type of sessions, information, and the networking piece is huge. Our consultants will be there. Our leadership team will be there. Andrea, our customer engagement folks will be there, so they get a chance to really see. And, one of the things that I get commented a lot is that, like the ISV side of things, they don't get to meet the folks that really, maybe they're doing Insight Works, for their, or Lanham, or they're doing Avalara Tax, and they're there. And this is the thought that they can actually talk to somebody because maybe they don't know the capabilities or having issues. So we won't go on that tangent, but it kind of ties in, I think, Andrea, what you're talking about. And we're so glad that you're on our team. We're excited that you're part of Inovia and looking forward for you to get to know more of your clients.
Yeah.
And sharing that experience. So
thank you, guys. I am super excited to be here. Thanks for having me on today as well. And I can't wait for the next journey. I just want to help people, and I'm excited to land in a place where I can do that. So
are you on LinkedIn, Andrea?
Yes, I am. You can. So
how can somebody find you on LinkedIn? Just search your name and you'll come up.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Awesome. So you can find Andrea on LinkedIn. You can always reach out to Inovia if you have any questions for her. You can always go to our website, inovia.com. As you know, we're on Twitter, and we're very heavily involved on LinkedIn. And guys, this podcast is over.